Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Sunny and Soul Sovereign. I'm happy to be back. If you guys haven't already, go check me out on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. It would be very appreciated. Last time we talked about, we went over Money Matters Chapter 6, where we talked about self-custody and the Lightning Network. Today, we're really going to go over the security of Bitcoin transactions and how the network keeps track of everyone's funds and whatnot, and the coding behind that. So some key takeaways for today is we're going to go over private keys, how they work. We're going to go over UTXOs. We're going to go over the double spending solution, talk a little bit about full nodes, and how they validate and keep track of transactions. We're going to go over hashing. We're going to go over public key cryptography, again, just security measures, scripts, the role of the mempool, and a little bit about miners, and that will get us ready for Chapter 8, where we will dive deeper into the mining process, reward system, the difficulty adjustments, and so on. So stay tuned for that. I'm Sunny and Soul Sovereign, and without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So Chapter 7, Unlocking the Secrets of Bitcoin's Inner Workings, UTXOs, Public Key Cryptography, Hashing, Scripting, Full Nodes, Mempool, and Miners. See that long string of ones and zeros there? It's called a random number. When converted to our decimal system, it becomes a number with over 70 digits, which is more than, or maybe around, the atoms in the entire universe. But we can represent this number in a shorter way using a different system, and we call it a private key. What's really cool about this particular private key is that it's unique. That means it's never been used before, and it will never show up again once you leave this page or generate a new one. It's like flipping 256 coins in a row and getting the exact same outcome twice, which is impossible. The security of Bitcoin relies on this private key being kept private and difficult to guess. If someone else gets their hand on it, or if you lose it, you'll lose all your money forever. So keep it safe. This is where the magic of UTXOs, public key cryptography, hashing, scripting, full nodes, mempool, and miners come into play. Just like a fingerprint ensures your identity, hashes in Bitcoin ensures that the transactions can't be altered. Scripts are like the rules for a game, making sure transaction follows specific conditions. UTXOs are like the building blocks of a puzzle, keeping track of all the money in your virtual wallet. Full nodes verify the transaction is completely valid, and the mempool acts like a holding area, making sure all transactions are verified before being added to the blockchain. By whom? You guessed it, miners. So let's dive in and discover how Bitcoin solves the double spending problem and ensures the integrity of every transaction on its network. Putting the double spend issue to rest, understanding Bitcoin's solution. Private and public keys, along with Bitcoin transactions, are represented by strings of random numbers and letters accessible on any internet-connected device. This typically appears as a 64-character hexadecimal numbers containing both letters A through F and numbers 0 through 9, such as the following. But how do we prevent someone from copying and pasting their Bitcoin and spending it multiple times, akin to an email or photo? Full nodes. Let's dive into it. Imagine you have one Bitcoin and you want to send it to your friend as a birthday gift. After sending the Bitcoin to your friend's address, you realize you owe your ex-boyfriend money and you should have sent the Bitcoin to him instead. In a moment of panic, you decide to be sneaky and create a new transaction and send the same one Bitcoin to your ex-boyfriend. This is known as double spend. But how does the network stop this from occurring? The full nodes detect conflicting transactions and allow only one based on a set of rules known as the consensus rules. In this scenario, the transaction to your ex-boyfriend will likely be rejected since it occurred after the original transaction to your friend. However, it's essentially a race for which transactions get validated first by a full node before entering the mempool for confirmation. When any transaction is initiated, any full node can verify it on the network through a few simple steps. 1. Signature verification. The node checks that the transaction is properly signed by the sender's private key, ensuring its legitimacy and integrity. 2. Fund verification. The node verifies that the sender has sufficient funds for the transaction by examining the sender's balance on the blockchain ledger. 3. Input and output verification. The node validates the transaction inputs and outputs, ensuring the inputs are not already spent in another transaction and that the outputs don't exceed the total supply. Combining public key cryptography, scripts, UTXOs, full nodes, and miners, Bitcoin verifies transactions' authenticity and prevents frauds without a central authority. How UTXOs work in Bitcoin transactions. In Bitcoin, transactions operate similarly to breaking a large bill into smaller bills and distributing them among different individuals. The leftover change from a transaction is termed an unspent output and can be utilized as input for a new transaction. Outputs in Bitcoin transactions can be either spent or unspent, with unspent outputs being valuable because they can be utilized in subsequent transactions. So sorry, that was a little bit of a hard word, but let's keep going. Picture it like using multiple gift cards to cover a purchase. The gift cards from prior transactions serve as inputs, and the change received is represented by a new gift card with the remaining balance. This mirrors how Bitcoin transactions function with UTXOs. So what are UTXOs? The balance of a wallet equals to the sum of all users' UTXOs. Let me repeat that. The balance of a wallet equals to the sum of all users' UTXOs. UTXOs are employed to track Bitcoin ownership in the network. When a transaction occurs, new UTXOs are generated, and when a transaction is spent, it utilizes existing UTXOs. Scripts play a key role in managing these. Creating UTXOs. When a transaction is made, it creates a new UTXO that are locked by the locking script. These UTXOs represent the output of the transactions and are associated with a specific address. Spending UTXOs. To spend a UTXO, the corresponding unlocking script must provide the necessary data to satisfy the conditions set by the locking script. For instance, to spend a UTXO, a valid digital signature must be provided in the unlocking script. Here's how the UTXO function in Bitcoin transactions. When a transaction occurs, the Bitcoin amount sent is divided into multiple outputs, each associated with a specific address. When sending Bitcoin to someone, you utilize one or more UTXO as funding source. These UTXOs may be combined if needed to generate a new output for the recipient of the transaction. This new output or UTXO then becomes the recipient's property and can be used as funding in a future transaction. This chain of UTXOs form a transparent and traceable history of all Bitcoin transactions on the blockchain, originating from the very first block. For instance, if someone wants to send 2 Bitcoins but hold a UTXO worth 5 Bitcoin, the remaining 3 Bitcoin is sent from her 4 UTXOs, totaling 6 Bitcoin, sending 5 to Bob and 0.99 back to herself with a 0.01 fee for processing. That will go to the miners. The transaction is then added to the blockchain, updating all nodes with an updated UTXO ledger. If Alice attempts to send 5 BTC to Ixima in a separate transaction, the nodes will reject it as some of the output has already been spent. Let's break it down further with an example. Alice transaction. Alice wants to send 5 Bitcoin to Bob. Alice has 4 UTXO totaling 6 Bitcoin. Alice sends 5 Bitcoin to Bob and gets 0.99 Bitcoin back as change. A 0.01 Bitcoin fee is paid for processing. The transaction is added to the blockchain and all nodes update their UTXO ledgers. Another transaction attempt. If Alice attempts to send the same 5 Bitcoin to Zemina in a separate transaction, the node will reject it. This is because some of the Bitcoin from the original transaction to Bob has already been spent. Again, if someone attempts to use a spent output in their transaction, is likely to be rejected by the network nodes. These nodes maintain identical databases and can easily reach consensus by verifying the balance of each address before validating any transaction. This ensures the integrity and validity of the transactions on the network. Consider another example. Only the individual processing the private key for an address can access the UTXOs stored in that address. For instance, if Evelyn holds the private key for address number 1, she will observe 0.5 Bitcoin in her wallet. Conversely, if Salo has the private key for address number 2, he will see 2.3 Bitcoin in his wallet. When Evelyn sends 0.3 Bitcoin to Salo, her wallet generates a new private key and address number. The original UTXO on address number 1 is spent, creating two new UTXOs, one for Salo's address with 0.3 Bitcoin and one for Evelyn's new address with 0.2 Bitcoin. Subsequently, after the transaction is recorded in the ledger, Salo's wallet displays 2.6 Bitcoin while Evelyn's wallet shows 0.2 Bitcoin. Here's a visual representation of the example here, if you guys want to go over that. Now we're going to go into functions and one-way functions. Functions and one-way functions. Let's start by exploring the concept of a function, more specifically a one-way function. A function is like a machine that takes some information and transforms it into something new. The machine's internal workings are based on a set of predefined rules, resulting in consistent and reproducible output. This process resembles a vending machine where specific coin combinations yield the same candy each time. Now let's focus on a specific type of function called a one-way function. This function generates an output but doesn't allow easy reversal to retrieve the original input. One-way functions are incredibly useful because they enable secure transformations without revealing the original information. Imagine a machine that encrypts sensitive data into secure code, making it almost impossible for anyone to decrypt it without the correct key. Consider this hashing function. F times x equals x plus 3 cubed. A basic one-way function. If x is 2, then f2 equals 2 plus 3 cubed equals 5 cubed equals 25. Even with only 2 as the input, we cannot determine the exact value without knowing the precise steps involved in the function. This makes one-way functions ideal for encryption and other security application. The essence of one-way functions lies in their ability to convert data into a secure format that is difficult to reverse, safeguarding sensitive information. Understanding and leveraging these functions can enhance your comprehension of blockchain technology and its application in securing digital transactions. What is hashing? In simple terms, hashing is like a magical machine that takes any input, a sentence, a document, a picture, and transforms it into a unique fixed-size string of characters. This process is similar to converting a delicious recipe into a unique code, ensuring consistency and reproducibility every time. Hashing ensures the secure transfer of information by maintaining its integrity and preventing tampering. Each input, regardless of its size, results in a distinct hash value. Any change in the input, even a minor one, generates a completely different hash, enabling quick verification of data authenticity. Hashing plays a crucial role in ensuring the security and immutability of transactions on a blockchain through the following mechanisms. 1. Unique digital fingerprint. A hash function takes an input or message and returns a fixed size string of bytes. The output, known as the hash value, is unique to the specific input data. Even a tiny change in the input results in a vastly different hash value, making it easy to detect alterations. 2. Data integrity. When a transaction is created, it is hashed to produce a unique hash value. This hash value acts as a digital fingerprint of the transaction. Any attempt to alter the transaction will produce a different hash value, making the tampering evident. 3. Chains of blocks. Each block in the blockchain contains a hash of the previous block, linking them together in a chain. This ensures that any change in a block will alter its hash and subsequently the hash of all following blocks. This interdependence makes it nearly impossible to alter a single block without changing all subsequent blocks, which will require an enormous amount of computational power. 4. Proof of work. In many blockchain systems, like Bitcoin, mining involves solving complex mathematical puzzles to find a hash value that meets certain criteria, usually having a specific number of leading zeros. This process, known as proof of work, requires significant computational resources, making it difficult to alter the blockchain's history because an attacker would need to redo the proof of work for all subsequent blocks. And 5. Security and verification. Nodes in the blockchain network use hashing to verify the integrity of transactions and blocks. When a new block is added, nodes validate the hash of the previous block and the transaction within the new block. If the hashes match expected values, the block is considered valid and added to the chain. Now we're going to talk a little bit about public key cryptography. In public key cryptography, there are two keys, a private key and a public key. The private key is a secret and known only to the owner. When the public key is shared with others, these keys are mathematically linked, ensuring that anything encrypted with the public key can only be decrypted with the private key, and vice versa. This cryptographic system allows secure communication and authentication over an insecure network. For example, if Alice wants to send a confidential message to Bob, she can encrypt it using Bob's public key. Only Bob, with his private key, can decrypt and read the message. Public key cryptography is the backbone of secure transaction and communication on the internet, including digital signatures, email encryption, and secure online transactions. Exploring public key cryptography. Let's understand public key cryptography through a simple example. Imagine you have a special box with two locks. One lock, the public key, is available for everyone to use, while the other lock, the private key, is known only to you. If someone wants to send you a message securely, they can put the message in the box and lock it with the public key. Now only you, with your private key, can unlock the box and read the message. This message ensures secure communication even if other intercepts the box. They cannot read the message without the private key. Public key cryptography provides the foundation for secure communication, data encryption, and digital signatures, protecting sensitive information in the digital world. Scripts. A script is a set of instructions that tells a computer what to do. In the context of Bitcoin, scripts play a crucial role in validating transactions and defining the conditions under which Bitcoin can be spent. Scripts are used to create complex transactions such as multi-signature wallets, time-locked transactions, and conditional payments. By using scripts, Bitcoin transactions can be customized to meet specific requirements and conditions. Understanding scripts in Bitcoin allows for the creation of more advanced and secure transaction types, enhancing the flexibility and functionality of the network. Unlocking the power of scripts in Bitcoin transactions. Let's explore the role of scripts in Bitcoin transactions. Scripts define the conditions that must be met for a transaction to be considered valid. These conditions are specified using a simple scripting language enabling the creation of various transaction types. Here's a basic example. Alice wants to send bitcoins to Bob. Alice creates a transaction with an output script specifying that Bob must provide a valid signature to spend the bitcoin. Bob creates an input script containing his signature, proving he owns the private key corresponding to the public key in Alice's script. If the conditions in the script are met, the transaction is considered valid and added to the blockchain. By leveraging scripts, Bitcoin transactions can be customized to include features like multi-signature wallets, where multiple signatures are required to authorize a transaction, or time-lock transactions where specify a future date or block height before the funds can be spent. Understanding scripts unlock the potential for more advanced and secure Bitcoin transaction, providing flexibility and functionality to meet various use cases. The mempool. The mempool, short for memory pool, is a temporary storage area for unconfirmed transactions on the Bitcoin network. When a transaction is broadcast to the network, it enters the mempool, waiting to be picked up by miners and included in the next block. For a transaction to enter the Bitcoin mempool, it must first be validated by nodes. Here's how the process works. Transaction creation. When a user creates a Bitcoin transaction, it is broadcast to the Bitcoin network. Initial validation. Nodes that receive the transaction perform a series of checks to ensure its validity. These checks include 1. Ensuring the transaction is properly signed by the sender's private key. 2. Verifying that the inputs being spent are unspent and belong to the sender. 3. Confirming that the transaction follows the consensus rules, such as having sufficient fees. 4. Checking that the transactions does not conflict with other transactions in the mempool. Mempool entry. Only after passing these validation checks does the transaction enter the mempool. The mempool is a temporary holding area for transactions that are waiting to be included in the next block. Transactions in the mempool are prioritized based on their fee rates, with higher fee transactions typically being included in blocks faster. Understanding the mempool provides insight into the transaction confirmation process and the factors influencing transaction fees and confirmation times. Navigating the mempool, understanding transaction confirmation. Let's dive into the role of the mempool in Bitcoin transaction confirmation process. When a transaction is initiated, it is broadcast to the Bitcoin network, validated by nodes, then enters the mempool. Here, it waits to be picked up by miners who select transactions based on the fee rates. Miners prioritize higher fee transactions as they receive these fees as rewards for including the transaction in a new block. Transactions remain in the memory pool until they are confirmed and added to the blockchain. Factors such as network congestion and fee rates influence how long transaction stays in the mempool before being confirmed. Understanding the mempool helps users optimize their transaction fees and estimate confirmation times, ensuring efficient and timely transaction on the Bitcoin network. Putting it all together, the journey of a Bitcoin transaction. Now, let's combine these concepts to understand the complete journey of a Bitcoin transaction. Alice wants to send Bitcoins to Bob. Alice creates a transaction with UTXOs, using her private key to sign it, ensuring its authenticity. The transaction is broadcasted to the Bitcoin network, validated by full nodes, and enters the mempool, where it waits for confirmation, all while scripts are ensuring conditions are met. Miners select transactions from the mempool based on their fee rates and include them into the next block to be confirmed. Hashing is used throughout the process, from signing a new transaction to the miners using hashing to solve a complex mathematical problem, securing the block, and finalizing or settling the group of transactions. This ensures the immutability of transactions on the blockchain. Once the transaction is confirmed and added to the blockchain, Bob can see the Bitcoin in his wallet. This journey involves hashing, public key cryptography, scripts, UTXOs, full nodes, Mempool, and miners, ensuring secure and verified transaction on the Bitcoin network. By understanding these components, you can appreciate the inner workings of Bitcoin and its robust system for secure digital transactions. Conclusion. In this guide, we explore the fascinating world of Bitcoin inner workings, including private keys, UTXOs, public key cryptography, hashing, scripts, full nodes, mempool, and miners. By understanding these concepts, you gain a deeper appreciation for the technology behind Bitcoin and its ability to provide secure, decentralized transaction. Bitcoin's innovation system ensures the integrity and security of every transaction, addressing the double spending problem and enabling trustless peer-to-peer transactions. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced user, understanding these fundamental concepts can enhance your knowledge and confidence in navigating the world of Bitcoin and blockchain technology. Feel free to refer to this guide whenever you need a refresher or want to dive deeper into the mechanism of Bitcoin. I hope you guys enjoyed Chapter 7. Again, this is going to get us ready for Chapter 8, which will be coming soon, where we'll be very much diving deep into how the mining process works. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed explaining it to you. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'm Sunny and So Sovereign. Again, please go check out my other videos on my YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. And yeah, I'm out. Stay sovereign, you guys.